Good evening, everyone. With the concept of connected cars, our automobiles have become a bigger source of personal data collection than we ever imagined. In this context, it would be interesting to listen to our speaker today, Ms. Suma Nagaraja, who would be talking on privacy in automotive industry. Suma is a graduate in electronics and communication. She has more than 10 years experience in this industry. She started her career with KPIT and now she's working as a security specialist in Bosch Global Software. She's a keen learner of privacy and data protection. She got certified in module ING with FDPPA, and she also holds a certification in machine learning. Over to you, Suma.
Currently I wanted to start with the security part, because for privacy, to implement the privacy part, we need the security to be established. So I'm covering the first overview for the security concepts like confidentiality, integrity, availability, and authenticity, and non-repudiation. In the confidentiality property, it is like the data should not be disclosed to unauthorized individuals or entities or processor. It's like it should be kept within the person who is giving and who is receiving. It should not be given to a wrong person. So how are we ensuring it? It has to be ensured that it is not be able to read by the third party, or while the storage also, we should be taken care that it is stored in a proper place. It's not open to other person when it is in the storage part, or during the processing, or in the transit. In any of the place, the confidentiality should not be compromised. With respect to privacy, if there are any personal data, then definitely it has to be kept confidential. It should not be open to the other persons apart from the sender and the receiver. In the integrity property, the accuracy or the completeness of the assets or the data. If the sender is sending A to B, then the data A should not be modified to B when it is being sent. So the accuracy, entire thing which has been sent from the sender to the receiver should be maintained, so that the sender B knows that the data which he has received is the right data. It's not been manipulated. Here, mainly with respect to our domain integrity of the log files, which we are logging, the log files gives us the output things. If it is getting modified, we will not be knowing what actually happened in the system to get the output. So we should ensure that the log files are logging the proper data inside this. Next one is the availability. Here in the availability, it is like we need the service which has been promised for the customer that it will be given has to be present when the customer requires the service. If the customer wants to withdraw the cash from ATM, and if ATM is not providing the cash, then there is an availability issue. In that way, the availability property is also one of the security things, where that security has to ensure everything, all the processes will work properly. The output is given when there is a request for the input. For example, here in the backend server, there are hackers which send continuous spam mails, everything, and ensure that the internet will crash for a website, so that it cannot be accessed by others also. This is the availability part, that is the denial of service. If the traffic in the internet is increased more, then the entire network will get crashed. And also the deletion of data. If they have stored some confidential data for the later purpose, but the data has got deleted, then later they cannot retrieve the data which they had thought it's already stored and is in a safe place. And then the authenticity. The authenticity refers to the integrity of data sources strongly related to the integrity of the data. Here, the authenticity is like the data which has been sent from A to B should not be manipulated, similar to the integrity. We have to maintain the trustworthiness of the data, the source origin. Like if there are two people interacting, there is a third person who is a hacker who wants to change something and pretend as A and send something to B. Then there is a loss of authenticity. He will send a malicious data to B, but B is thinking A has sent the data and he is thinking it is the trustworthy, but there is a loss of integrity of the data. And then there is non-repudiation. Here, it's mainly we can go for the phishing thing where the hacker has sent some spam mails, and we are thinking it's a wrong. We don't know whether the source of the mail which we have received is authentic or not. We are thinking it is authentic, and we will get into it, and we will get into a suit. To avoid this, we have the non-repudiation. If when we check this, when we check the place from where this email has come, it will reach to some other point, not the actual origin or the authentic source. So this is the non-repudiation. Here, one person cannot deny that I have not sent that mail. If the hacker has sent the mail and it has been traced back to him, there will be a chain where he can be tracked. And that entire security part has to be established for the entire process. That is one of the goals of the security. And why do we need security in the automotive part? There were many hackings done by different research scientists and the ethical hackers, where in one of the ethical hacker case, where Miller and Vaselis, they actually tried to hack the code of a car, Chrysler car. Then they were able to control the entire car, and they made it crash, and they manipulated the messages, and they controlled the steering as well. It was really a big hack which led to the recall of the cars by the Chrysler to fix the bugs which they had found during this hacking. And also in the next year, they also checked the hacking. They started exploiting all the vulnerabilities present in the car, and they disabled the ECU by setting it to a boot mode, which is the starting point of the ECU. And they sent a fake CAN messages, like if they are braking, if person is trying to brake, they ensured that they stopped that message and sent another message telling to accelerate. They deviated it. They ensured that other ECUs cannot check that fake message is coming from the ECU by stopping that. They hacked the entire CAN message protocol part. In that way, they were able to fully control the Jeep. And one point which they actually gave as input to the car makers was that without physical switch, they should not enable any diagnostic part for the car, because they were able to do all this without any connections. It was done in wireless mode. All the changes they did is via the commands, via internet. And then we have three things: safety, security, and privacy. Earlier, it was only safety and security in the automotive, and slowly privacy also creeped in. And every time, whenever we are getting any requirements, we are seeing that many things are getting overlapped. It's really difficult to separate, like it's an independent entity. Sometimes if security is compromised, safety is also compromised, as well as privacy. So all the 3 points are very important in the automotive domain. And safety is mainly to prevent the accidents or the failures. But security is to prevent the deliberate attacks. It's from the third party. It's not the internal issues. Internal issues may lead to the vulnerability which the other third party or outside element can exploit and get into the system and destroy the functionality or the feature. In privacy, it's mainly the protection of the personal data, which is most important for the privacy part, which is governed by the laws and regulations for particular countries. Depending on the country, these laws will get changed. But to achieve privacy, we need security. And for privacy in automotive, any data leaving a vehicle has a potential to be a part of privacy. This is mainly particularly in case with the operation and management, and we have sensitive data like GPS data, and we have VIN where we can directly identify where the particular person is using the GPS data, and VIN directly you can get the person details with the VIN of the car associated with a particular car and is unique to a car. And with the connected cars, we are seeing that now currently the cars are being connected to multiple applications and which is open to the Ethernet. Once we are open to the Ethernet, we will get more of the hacking parts available for the hackers to exploit. Many things will be there. If you see here as an example, we have noted as the information on the notebooks in vehicles and working environment. So here, whatever you are entering into the notebook and saving in the vehicle, but if it is not protected or secured, it will be open to the hacker outside. As it is similar to our normal web-based internet. All the connections is via Ethernet. And now coming to the connected cars, many breaches and hacks and misuse of personal data also have occurred with the car getting hacked. That is, the security has getting exploited, and all the private data, everything has been taken out and is misused also. So now the privacy has got the higher concern along with the security and safety, and all the automotive industry is also moving towards ensuring the data privacy. Earlier, they were not worried much about because we did not have much open ports to the third parties outside the car environment. But now with the connected cars, we have many other ports from where the hacker can do the attack. We have, for example, here in this diagram, we can see there is wireless communication, there is central gateway system, engine, drive recorder, odometer, ECUs, diagnostic interfaces. Even with diagnostics, people can hack the car and get the secret data out if it is not secured properly. Even in garage, they can do that and get the personal data out. And there are many other massive data generation happening in the connected cars, from the engine performance to telematics, infotainment data, location, road connections, and car gathers data on the car. One car has information of the other car. There is vehicle fleet which is coming into picture, which each car talks to each other. Many information from one car goes to the other car so that they can arrive to a particular decision. Which car has to go first, which car has to go back. If there is any traffic deviation happening, it has to check that also. So cars are talking with each other. There is an again hacking probability will get increased with these connections. Earlier, the car was itself closed circuit, but now because of all these things, more and more interaction with the environment surrounding it, with the other cars, the hacking probability is increased and the loss of data is more, and generation of data is also more. You can take it as a mixed blessing. And after all, it's what enables car to communicate with the internet and IoT devices to improve our cars, our safety and our experience. And then now we know that so many data is getting generated by the cars. Who owns the data collected from the car? Here I would like more inputs. This was my opinion that car owner should get the data collected from the car. But if we have any other opinions, please let me know. Because I consider this data collected from the car has to go with the car owner as he owns the entire vehicle. And the data collected from the car considered personal, yes, if it is identifiable. For example, we have VIN. With the VIN vehicle identification number, it can be traced back to the car owner directly. And also the GPS positions might lead to the point where the car owner usually travels, and his identity we can take out from the routes of the car which it takes daily. Pattern can be established and we can derive the person place where he's staying, like that. So yes, data collected from car considered as personal, yes, if we can identify the owner with that. Who is responsible for securing the data collected? The onus lies with the OEMs. Here, whatever data we are collecting, the entire thing OEM will be responsible as it knows in and out of the system and is knowing what can be done, how it can be stored. They can take more secure features ensure that data is not being misused at any point. And who has the access to the data collected? Again, it depends on the car owner, maybe the car owner, but for few data which does not identify the owner, OEM will be responsible for the access because it has to give other services based on the collected data. If the consent has been given for few services by the owners, then OEM will have the access to the collected data. Next one is I wanted to introduce to the privacy preserving computational technologies. Here, the emerging technology promises to change the face of the world we live in. The artificial intelligence will enable cars to drive autonomously. Mainly, this is related to the artificial intelligence and the big data analytics, which has enabled for scientists to cure diseases and businesses to understand their customers. Same thing is happening with the connected cars also. They are actually bringing in the artificial intelligence to enhance and get the accuracy and predictive analysis. Everything is happening even in the autonomous industries, automotive industries. And we are having the processes also automated. So many at different points, this artificial intelligence is entering into the automotive domain. Again, in this case, the data has to get protected. It is very critical. Without data, big data analytics will not be successful. Data is the main point. As with the connected cars, we are generating huge amount of data. Again, here the data is the wealth and it has to be protected. And we have the privacy preserving computation techniques, which is actually a family of security techniques, which is based on the cryptography and allows for sharing, operating on data without exposing the original information. Mainly, they are protecting the data here with these particular, all the 3 or 4 which are mentioned here, all the techniques, they are actually trying to operate on data without opening up the original information. They are making it as a confidential part. The other person who is processing the data will not be knowing what is the actual information which they are doing the operation on. The prominent members of this family are the security multi-party computation, homomorphic encryption, methods of statistical disclosure, and differential privacy. And I'll take up each one explanation for each one in the coming slide. Secure multi-party computation, what does it do? It actually ensures the different parties to jointly compute the function over their inputs while keeping those inputs private. That is, the one person will not share the input from his side to the other person, but finally the output we have to get the output without the two person knowing what are the inputs from the other party. So they are ensuring they will have a secret shares among themselves, distribute among themselves, and process the input data with different shares, get the output, and none of the party will be aware of what is the input from the other person. For example, here I have taken about the three co-workers, Ali, Brain, and Caroline, wanted to compute the average salary. Nobody wants to share their salary to other person, but they want to know the average salary. So what they wanted to do? What was the resolution? They took this MPC, Secure Multi-Party Computation. Here, this MPC will use the additive secret sharing. What, for example, A or the Ali has $100 salary, Brain has $200, and Caroline has $300 salary. Now they want to compute the average. How are they doing? They are sharing different values as inputs and getting the output. Ali has told that 50 bucks from Ali's side, and Ali is telling to Brain that she is receiving 30, and Caroline that 20. And Brain has told to Ali that I am getting negative value of 80, and he's taking his input as 100. Caroline is telling to Ali that I am in negatives. I do not have much value of 50 I have, and telling Brain that I have 350. In this case, finally, if you add up each row, it will be equivalent to the value which each person has. But the other person will never know what is the actual value of the other two. In this way, all the three are getting added and divided by 3, and we get the average. And none of them will know the other person's salary, but they achieved the getting the average of the 3 salaries together without knowing each other's salary. Here, whatever Ali has made as minus 80, it is known only to Ali. The other two persons don't know. Then the next one is the homomorphic encryption. This form of encryption allows one to perform the calculations on the encrypted data without decrypting. So the processing on the data happens on the encrypted ones. So the processing person who is involved there will never be knowing what data he is going to do the processing on. It will be some unintelligible data on which he does the processing and gets some output. And that output, when decrypted, is same output if the original raw data has been processed and the output we get. So only the person who knows what he has encrypted can decrypt the output and get the values. So the processing person will never be aware of the original information. For example, here in the business, XYZ has a very important data set that consists of numbers 5 and 10. To encrypt the data set, business XYZ multiplies each element set by 2, creating a new set of numbers 10 and 20. And these 10 and 20 are given as inputs for processing, and whatever output process will come, they'll again do the division by 2 and get the actual output for them. And then we have the statistical disclosure control. This is technique allows the broad statistical information to be gathered and informed from the data without actual specific of individual data items being exposed. This is actually, they are using the mathematical techniques here to ensure to get a pattern out of it and then conclude from that pattern what has to be done finally. But they cannot point out which individual or which data is being analyzed. It is a group part. The differential privacy is also a kind of SDC, where the publicly sharing information about the data set for the describing pattern of groups within the data set without withholding, while withholding the information of the individuals in the data set. This is a part of the statistical disclosure control. Statistical disclosure control is done on a very huge values, huge mass of data, but differential is between two sets of groups of data. Besides this purely cryptographic PPC techniques, there are methods that use hardware mechanisms to provide the secure environments for code execution, so-called trusted execution environment. These are tightly controlled execution environments that allow for the data processing within the hardware provided encrypted private memory areas directly on the microprocessor chip. In the automotive domain, currently we have the hardware security module, which would be a part of microprocessor chip, and inside this all the operations of encryptions and the storage of the keys and private confidential data can be done, and this will be entirely separated from the actual microprocessor part. Even though HSM is a part of the microcontroller chip, it will be having a access control part. If you are able to access the microcontroller RAM area, but you cannot access directly the HSM RAM area, it will be protected. You can read the dump from the microcontroller chip, but not from the areas on the HSM. It will be protected with read and write. Only the particular role or the users can do the read and write, like OEMs, or during the garage or the return of the ECUs, we will be able to check it. And the another one thing is the deep learning, which is newly entering into the automotive driving. Here, as the companies are often not able to collect the large amount of label training data required for successful application of deep learning on their own, they need for buying of data sets from the third parties. Prior to purchase, companies must be able to verify that data set offered to have expected value. The complexity of the DL systems, this requires the testing against the real model. Here there is a problem, like if the data sets provided by the third party is authenticate or not. If it is authentic, then we would get the expected values. But once we get the data sets, it has to be protected and it should not reveal the information of the personal data or the confidential part. So with the deep learning, it is more challenging for all the domains which are having this artificial intelligence into it. They have to ensure all the security for the data which is being processed or getting analyzed. That is the reason they are having this trusted environment in a particular, like sandboxing will be done for the training of the data, like that. For that, they are maintaining the trusted environments. Now we are coming to the privacy part of the automotive industry, where we have the intelligent transport system where the cars are talking with each other. We have the fleet management, and for this the privacy we are facing mainly the three categories has been made: identity privacy, behavioral privacy, and the location privacy. Identity privacy refers to the privacy of a driver, traveler, passenger, pedestrian, or the participant's real-world entity. Whoever is in the car their identity privacy has to be protected. This can take the form of their first and last name, driver's license number, car registration number. When we say it is car, not only the data collected by the car, all the data involving the car, like driver's license number, registration number, and the way the driver's license number has been generated, that process, and the car registration number and the addresses, everything they are taking with this, they are able to identify a person. These all will come into the personal data, sensitive data part. The usage of pseudonyms, also known as pseudo IDs, in place of linking real-world identities to vehicles, can be used to protect the identity privacy. Instead of having direct the name of the driver or the driver license number, pseudo IDs can be used to manage the fleets. If a particular car is running, instead of assigning the driver name to that car, you can use the ID numbers of that person. If somebody else sees the ID number, they cannot derive out that person is there unless they have the mapping of the ID to the driver. For that mapping, it has to be stored by the fleet management who is handling this. They will be responsible for the confidentiality of that person, that data, mapping data. And there is an alternative to use the pseudonyms for privacy preserving identification. Attribute-based credentials have been proposed. Instead of directly having the direct mapping from the index to the person name, we can have the attributes mapped to the each card. The privacy enhancing attribute-based credential allows the users to authenticate to verifiers such that users not linkable between the authentication events and only reveal those attributes from their credentials that are relevant to the verifier. For example, we have our OTP in the Ola where we are sending some, we are requesting for the cab, we are getting some OTP and we are giving the OTP. With the OTP, driver cannot know the details of the person, nor we can know the details of the driver unless the driver name and other things are given by the Ola app or the Uber app to us. So here again, the OTP is our shared secret part. And there exists a trade-off between preserving privacy of the ITS participants and providing security of non-repudiation, which is needed to correctly identify the users of the system in case of vehicular accidents or crime. If something happens during the car traveling and it gets crashed, then whose fault it is? When they are checking or investigating, they might come to a point saying the driver had not driven the vehicle properly. There was a mistake from the driver's side. The driver might say, I did not do any mistake. To ensure that driver has not done, they will have to check the recordings inside the car where EDR has been placed and they can get to know whether there was any mistake or not. To have this non-repudiation, like driver claiming he has not changed, but to ensure that his claim is correct, they need the data out of the EDRs. And the next one is the behavioral privacy. With abundant and detailed information of users in ITS ranging from financial information to the location information as well as users' habit within the system, there is a massive opportunity for invasion of individual behavioral privacy. Here, for example, if we are taking a car, there are many features from the car where we are getting the seat adjustments being done based on the driver. If you are entering your fingerprint, biometrics also is being collected. You are entering the fingerprint, immediately the car adjusts its seat height and the leaning of your seat, everything to the person which is mapped to the pattern which is already fed into the system. So the profile for that particular driver, whatever the seating adjustment, will be taken as a behavioral pattern for that particular driver. With a long set of data, even a driver can be identified with his behavioral patterns. So even these data has to be protected. And also with this, if you have a car and you are traveling in a particular route every day, for example, work to home, this route tracking is also being done. And if this pattern is observed by a third party or the hacker who wants to cause harm to you, they can know your origin point of the travel to the destination point. And also the timings can be known. Everything is getting recorded. So we need to ensure that all this data are getting secure. It's not open to the third parties or the other hacking things which are trying to get more information and attack. And to ensure this pattern can not be used, differential privacy can be used. Differential privacy can be used to preserve the privacy of ITS users. They are doing this by furnishing ways to maximize the accuracy of queries from statistical databases, but it will not pinpoint to the user. The next one is the location privacy. It would be classified as the privacy of location and space or the right of user to travel or move about the system without the concern of his or location information being exposed. While the precise location information is beneficial for ITS to provide the location-aware services, such information can also be used to attack the privacy of the individual. As the behavioral pattern also included the location details, location privacy also has to be secured here. It is mainly the GPS-based navigation system. Even in our Google Maps, if we are actually entering the same destination every time from same origin, next time automatically it will be popping up for you. If you have observed that, it will pop up very soon. And it is because they have already ensured that these frequently going routes are being stored. The pattern is being stored for that particular individual. If somebody else has the access to that pattern, they will be knowing where we are going, at what time. And they can deduce, and if they want to cause harm, they can plan and cause harm for that. So location privacy preservation is also very important. To do this, we have location obfuscation or the location cloaking, where the actual locations are not being recorded and they are slightly altered to prevent the pointing of the exact position of the car or the user's actual position. This location privacy part with the China, we have seen that they are very secretive about the areas or the geographical actual routes inside the China, and they are actually not allowing any of the OEMs to know this data. They are actually scrambling the GPS signals and then ensuring the processing is done by the car and then giving back the scrambled output, and only the China government can get the actual location map. If the other person who is trying to get this value, they will get a different geographical location. If they are trying to do the coordination and checking, they will not get the actual location. The term privacy preserving computing technology refers to a wide range of technologies. Those we see the most potential in as of today are trusted execution environments, computing on encrypted data methods, and statistical disclosure control technologies. And with this, I want to just go through a few cases where the privacy was compromised. In one case, the former Volkswagen owner discovered the digital access to her car months after it was sold. Like she had finished her selling of the car and she thought everything is done. And suddenly some mails started coming to her regarding the car status, how the car is, if everything is okay or not, like that. And she was very surprised to know why she is getting these updates. And she started using her old entering the value into the app, which used to give her car location and all, and she was able to see her old car in a particular location. So entire detail where the car went, everything she was able to get the information. And she immediately reported it. And when they checked what had happened, once the car was sold, all the data removal has to be done by the owner. It was not the responsibility of the OEM, because of which all this data was still present for the old owner and it was not cleared off. And if the new owner came to know about this, how would they feel about this particular case? That another person is able to track their movements, each and every moment in their own private car. So it is very important that whenever there is a handover of cars, all the things which are getting stored has to be cleared off and started again, and the mapping of the individual to the car also to be updated. And the next one is the recording of the driver's license on the ticket. Here the main contention was from a individual of Canada against a furniture shop, where the lady's daughter had bought a furniture, and due to some reason she was not able to ensure that delivery can be done on a particular day, and she said she'll send her mom the next day and then pick up the furniture. And when the mom went there and the salesperson asked for her driving license for to enter inside the ticket, when she asked why she has to give it as it is a personal data, they said it is a company policy to map, to ensure that the right person is picking up the furniture and there is no fraud being done. And then she actually entered her driving license number and took the furniture, and then she went to court suing the furniture company. Finally, in the court, they checked that the Canada Privacy Act, and they said that whatever the furniture salesperson did was wrong. They cannot collect the driver's license number as it is a personal data. But they did not give any remedy to the person who had to share the data. And then there was another thing related to the telemetry data, where a customer sued Ola Electric for publishing all the telemetry data of that person until the crash, what happened, which led to the tussle between them, to be discussed publicly in a public platform. As the Ola Electric wanted to say that it is not their mistake, but it was a mistake of the customer. They published each and every pattern of the driving of that particular driver in a public platform, which was actually the violation for that customer's data. But Ola already had gotten a consent when the Ola two-wheeler was bought by the customer, that they can, if under some situation, if they have to tell, they can disclose the facts to the public, but which public platform they have not mentioned it. So again, here the privacy of that customer was not taken into consideration by the Ola when they started explaining why it was the customer's fault. Also, there is a case that customers should have thought before putting it on a Twitter or the public domain accusing the company, but even companies should have taken care that they are not actually disclosing the fact directly to the public. Yep, thank you. Any questions?
Ramesh, you can read out some of the questions which are there in the chat box.
Sure, sir. Sure. First of all, Suma, quite interesting topic, and thank you very much for really covering the technical parts. Whatever you said, I'm sure everybody enjoyed it, and I can understand the kind of effort what you have put in. Thank you very much, really. All right. There is a question to start with. Namit is asking, these parameters are being discussed in respect to automotive security. What exact data are these to be applied to?
Mainly for example, the authenticity part, we have the secure messages from one ECU to the another ECU. If we are sending any messages, then
Right.
it has to be authenticated by CMAX. And for the authentication of CMAX, we have the keys which have to be stored in a particular section which is not accessible to any others. Only for the verification purpose, it has to be accessible. So those keys will be stored in the HSM security module, which I was explaining in the slide. So again, everywhere the security will be involved in each process also.
Right. There is a question from Mr. Govind Srinivasan. Okay. The question I will read. I do understand this question to a certain extent. Suma, is there a connect between TISAX, TISAX, right?
20 hours.
Standard, and what you detailed out in your presentation, please. I am asking from the aspect of info security playing a vital role in privacy compliance. As you know, TISAX is dependent on Annexure A controls of ISO 27001, correct? So he is referring to that.
Actually, I am not aware of TISAX.
Yeah, okay. That's what I said. Sure. Sir, Govindan sir, I think you are right. That's why I sent that message also one-on-one to you.
Thank you, Ramesh. Thank you.
Yes,
just wanted to. Suma, I will send you the TISAX basics of TISAX. TISAX is taking the whole globe, entire automotive industry in the globe by a storm now. Okay, so some of us are also being trained who are in the certification bodies. We are being trained in TISAX. So TISAX is becoming almost like a industry norm, gold standard that includes privacy.
And have a session from you also. Capture him. Don't leave him now.
Yes.
Say Govinda, Govinda.
Sir, Govinda is an info junkie, so he can rather talk to you on anything. But people like Ramesh, and then our guru Navi sir, they are all, they're in depth. You all guys are not in-depth people. But I cover the large segment. But absolutely, I'll only be too happy. At least introduce TISAX.
So next week is a TISAX session.
Yeah, we can have. Not a problem.
I will participate and enjoy your session.
One day we will have, no doubt about it.
Yeah. I'm sure Manju is tracking. She would have immediately booked the calendar for you, Srinivasan sir. We'll come back to you, Govind sir. Yes.
For me also. Please.
She will catch me by my collar virtually.
It's a big catch for us.
Yes. Great. I think, Govind sir, I think you are right. And as we understand that this TISAX is exclusively for automotive industry, and whatever she is talking about is purely related to that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Suma,
and another question.
Yeah, just
one
to
question
add.
to Suma. One question to Suma. Suma, do you know 16949?
Yes, I have heard of it, but I have not gone through.
16949 relates to quality in automotive industry, right? Very popular standard. There is not even if you are manufacturing a small screw or a fastener like a nut and bolt, you need to come under TS 16949 because otherwise you will not be a supplier to any of the OEMs. TISAX is becoming like a information security component of 16949. Kind of, I'm not making it the official one. Like understanding level, this is the one which I need.
So at the high level,
I-
can we say that is for the manufacturing, this is for users of automotives?
Which is what is it? Can you come again?
TISAX is for basically for the manufacturing environment.
Even services, see, even if you are going to be giving a software solution,
Mhm.
okay? Because see, please see, understand, because of cyber security challenge only, TISAX has come into being. If it is going to be a simple IC engine, internal combustion engine alone, I think TISAX would not have come. Because
Yes.
car is becoming a computer now. Okay.
Correct.
It's a
Because
remote
of this,
computer, like.
car is becoming, is it a computer or a car? It's a last 10 years, this question is going on. Is it a car we are driving or a computer we are driving? Okay, it is a
Mix
computer.
of both.
Computer only.
Because of this, TISAX has come into being, and TISAX is becoming a very big industry money-wise.
Right.
Mr. Govindraj, this will be very interesting because my son is in active developing these things at the back end, the embedded systems. I will ask him also to sit through and learn. It will be a wonderful.
I'm
treat
100%
for
sure
us.
that Bosch has got something to do with the TISAX in a big way, but since these are all compartmentalized, one department may not know what the other department does because of their specializations.
Right.
But I'm sure that Suma will now ask and then get all the details.
Definitely, I'll go and ask back now.
Good.
Very good, sir.
Very good. Sir, Govind sir, also, you are talking about 16949, right?
Yes.
And before this session, we were discussing Robert Bosch also, especially from the development perspective, in Bangalore and etc. They also are automotive spice guys, right? Like your CMMI model,
Yes.
wherein that quality, productivity, and other parameters being brought in through that implementation of the A spice, what they call, right?
Yes.
Same
Yes.
like CMMI model, as you know.
Perfect. Right.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah. And in
But,
fact, I was sorry. Go ahead, sir.
one of the points which was interesting was this change of ownership of the car. Okay. Now, of course, she said that it will be the responsibility of the current owner to delete his data. Okay. But now, if the car manufacturer is providing access to the data through an app, if the car has been sold to another person and the other person downloads and installs an app with the same engine number or chassis number, then
Yeah,
is it not possible that a control can be established at the software level so that we cannot make the person responsible for deletion of the data?
Actually, if the other person had already downloaded the app, then they would have already updated the backend data. But the problem was the new owner did not enter his entry into the registration for the app. So the old owner data was still retained.
This means that with this entry of this computerized cars, the RTO will have to change a system of their registration, and a notice may have to go somewhere else when they, of course, if the person doesn't register the change of ownership with the RTO also, it will be difficult. But where the RTO registers a change and changes the, let us say, registration, a request or some automated message has to go to the software so that if there is any intelligent system in the car, now it contains the personal data of the previous driver, previous owner, it has to be automatically transferred to the next to this thing.
Yes.
The other aspect which I am seeing as a problem area is we are equating the ownership of the car to the privacy of the driver of the car. In many cases, it may not be the same, no? Say when you have a data about a car driving and other these things, if it is treated as the personal data of the owner, actually it may be driven by a person who is other than the owner. So we will be having incorrect personal information recorded by the software. Now, how does the software handle that situation?
Yes,
Others
the
also can give
mapping-
any information if they are aware of it.
Mapping
Sir.
would be wrong, Navi sir, correct. But
Right.
the
Yes, sir.
problem is,
Navi, sir.
whatever data
Navi,
they
sir.
have from that, they can reduce it as the owner only. It cannot be a
Right.
driver unless the owner
No,
has
no.
mapped it back to the driver.
Sir, now I am told the car itself will know who is driving, whether it is the driver or the other man, because it is embedded with such a system. Only
Right,
those
right.
people it will allow. That's what the new agenda. It knows who is the
Oh, fine.
driver. It will even arrange the seat to requirement of the driver.
I
If the
agree.
owner sits, it will say it
I
depends upon the
agree.
individual.
If the fingerprint or something is used and that is mapped to the ownership, we are talking of biometric data identification, which makes
Exactly.
this sensitive to critical information.
Exactly.
Because
Yes.
driving a vehicle is a life and death kind of a situation. So it is not simply sensitive information, it is critical information. So I don't think the automotive industry is ready to handle the privacy regulations related to sensitive and other these things. But I know there are voice recognition also built into Mercedes and other
Yes.
things.
Yes.
And only if the driver speaks out, perhaps it will start or something like that. But they were all created when privacy laws were not considered that stringent, I suppose. Now, actually, the automotive people will have to rethink on how to obtain consent for that. Okay, we'll see they've already created the technology, they cannot give up the technology.
No, they are
Consent has to
having
be
the
there.
consent, Naviji, because what they are doing is when they are buying the car only, they are getting all the consent for these all the
That
new
is not
features.
acceptable. No, that is a common consent for next 5 years of my ownership. That is not acceptable at all. Like it has to be explicit consent to be renewed from time to time.
Right.
Okay.
Isn't
I
that?
don't think they have enabled such strong measures yet.
See, even
Navi, sir.
And
today,
revocable too.
no, even
The
today,
consent will be
ordinary cars
revocable
also
too.
have. Now, ordinary cars also have some intelligence today. Okay, our Maruti and other things also will have at least engine performance and other things. It is actually recording, and probably that is readable only by the authorized dealer with a particular software. But as a user of the car, the dealer or the manufacturer never tells me what kind of such intelligence is being collected by the software,
Correct.
and they have not taken the consent from us. So these things will create a legal problem for these manufacturers sooner or later. Once the act comes, somebody will actually take them to the court on not getting appropriate informed consent. Okay, where is the informed consent to the buyer? Any of you who have bought the car will know he will give the key and perhaps you drive away. So there is a lot of things to be done. A privacy officer will have to be there before a purchase is finalized. Every dealer. So a lot of employment opportunities for privacy people, I think, with every automotive dealer.
I want to close my company and then become a DPO. That will give you a
Navi,
better
sir.
opinion. Sir,
Navi,
sir,
sir.
one important point, sir, here. See, I don't know why it was stopped. It was there. It was at the national level. It was there in Ghaziabad. This project, Auto ID. Okay, which means I mean they know that Auto ID is like RFID. Okay, it's a huge project. It was, but somewhere like it got stopped. The Auto ID is like what is your tag? That is the what the tag fast tag. It is like fast tag for the car itself. So from the license plate itself, it can immediately recognize who is the owner, what is the address, everything. I mean, it can. So nobody can tamper it. If you tamper it, it's like a blockchain. It will fail. You need to again, I mean, install it. You can't tamper it. You can't take it out also. So that is the way how Auto ID is already there in many countries. It was supposed to come here, but it was continuously, the date was postponed. I believe that one of us can find it out easily. Where is that project and when it is going to be? Maybe in one of Nitin Gadkari's speeches, it might have been mentioned now that it is going to come up soon. Considering that the Privacy Act is not far from now, I think they will expedite this also. But as far as the typically Google car or take this Tesla, they have such controls like unless you put your password, the car will not start.
Absolutely.
You will not car, and the moment you put the password, And the two-factor authentication. If you
Right.
don't put your two-factor authentication, car will not start at all.
Govind sir, one more thing. Last week we were discussing, that, like, if you are driving the car, let us say that you are taking the left lane. Okay. Now, let's say that left when you are coming, if it is going to, let's say, the distance between the car and the left side, wherever that, if the distance is going to be less, the AI program, that module alerts, and at one point it stops the car in the middle, I believe, automatically, because you are going to go into the wrong direction. Okay. So the car is getting tracked from every direction, is what they are, right? Now, Suma said, sir, Navi sir, I just wanted to hear your opinion also. She said one good point. Who who is the owner of the data, right? She said, I personally feel car owner, she put, right? And for the third question, she put the OEM. Now, I feel along with the owner of the car, even the OEM is the owner of the data, because each and every data of your car, he's tracking from the three perspective, what she talked about beautifully: safety, security, privacy angle. Without that, he cannot really give you the service to you, right? I'm trying to correlate the safety, security, privacy.
No, the data still belongs to the owner only. Okay.
Correct.
He
Correct.
has to pass
Only
on part of the
processing.
data rights back to the manufacturer.
OEM.
OEM starts with ownership for the entire data, because the car is not yet sold, it is directly from the showroom. But once the sale happens, the transfer has to take place even for the ownership of the data to the owner, and the access to the OEM should be cancelled. Okay, should be deleted. Then he should ask the owner, now I have to maintain your car. So this is a set of configurations which you will have to license me to view. So there has to be a two-way exchange of passing on the ownership of one set of data and buying back the another set of data. So this should be part of the sale contract. So lawyers should be able to draft a contract for this purpose, which
And the consumer make money out of it, Navi sir.
definitely. Now, contract, it is like your cloud contracts. No, in many of the cloud contracts also, you engage the cloud service provider, and then some data is generated. Then that data either you manage, or sometimes you ask the same person to manage. That's a second contract. So one contract is for the service, another contract is for the data. Likewise here, I am seeing there is a two-way contract. First, let him transfer all the data ownership to the buyer and confirm by way of an assurance. There has to be an audit or something which should say that the moment ownership is transferred, the control for the OEM is withdrawn. So there is a new password. Once the owner puts in a new password, the old access should not be available.
Force password change at the first drive.
First drive. Okay. Then subsequently, he has to make a request to the owner saying that some of this data is not useful to you because you cannot read that without equipments. And if it is given to me, I will be able to analyze. If I analyze, I will send you a monthly report about your driving efficiency, etc. He has to give some kind of an incentive to the owner, and then get that permission. So this contractual these things is something which has to be done now. So I think LMA kind of people should try to draft some contracts for this. Okay.
Navi sir, 2 points. May I speak, please?
Please.
Sir, 2 points. One is revocation of that consent, what you just mentioned. That should be also be available at any point of time. The owner should be able to revoke his consent back. So, and that is usually not mentioned in their contracts.
Yeah.
And the second point, you were speaking about the change of ownership of the car when it is sold.
Yeah.
So normally these automotive companies normally maintain their own database, which is not linked with the RTO database.
Correct.
And because of that, once a car is sold, let's say once a car is sold and it goes to the new owner, obviously it is reflected in the RTO. But once you go for a service, you will see that the old owner's details are still there because the history of the car is maintained.
Correct. Then so far, privacy was not the issue. Now privacy has become the issue. So old
Yes.
person's data cannot be shared to the new owner, and new owner's data cannot be shared to the old owner. So that issue has come only now because of the privacy.
One important point again is this, that car data, let's say a car has a history, let's say 15 years or 10 years history is there, and the car is sold then after 10 years. So that 10 years history is still, that data should be still shared by the previous owner because he was the owner during that time. And now after 10 years, the new owner is the owner of the car, but the data which should be shared with that owner should be after the 10 years, not before that. So that bifurcation still needs to be made. That
Yes.
is not done. That feature is not incorporated in their systems at all.
Actually, now in that Form 35 of the transfer of
Yes,
ownership of the
yes.
car, there has to be a mention about the data transfer. RTO itself should advise the particular person that along with this, you have to send a notice to the OEM, or some way that a control has to be built. Now, whether that control has to be built at the first owner's level, second owner's level, or the OEM level, or at the RTO level, this is something which we need to debate. Where can be the control for ensuring that data does not go and reach the unauthorized person?
Avi sir,
Yeah.
I think this we can correlate it to the medical domain, right? Healthcare domain. The
Yeah.
implants, whatever we are,
Yeah.
having today.
Mm.
So that implants on that patient is
Correct.
it's his own data, no doubt about it. But it is
Correct.
getting monitored, administered, tracked for its again efficiency, performance related issues by the
Yeah.
doctors or surgeons, whomever.
Correct.
So obviously, I take your point that they have to have the patient's consent here. The same thing here, that the driver or the owner's consent.
No, that is okay. That is done
Joint
at one
ownership
point of
whether.
time. What happens when it is transferred to another person? No.
No. In the car case, as Namit had asked, obviously the new owner also need to have the visibility about the cars, the 10 years back data, obviously, how many times it had hit any kind of accident.
No, that is where it becomes personal data of the previous owner.
No. But if I'm going to buy a car, right, I will be careful that whether the car had met with an accident, number one.
You should ask me. Then I have to give you that information. Okay,
correct.
If you see a dent in the car, you will definitely ask me whether it has
correct.
an accident.
How many
And
times you had gone
to
for
share the
insurance?
data with you, I will charge also as a principal data.
Correct.
If you
I
give
will
me
not
money,
buy. I will not buy
give.
car from you. I will not buy car from you. Why should I buy?
Now, what we are debating is that the privacy issue will make changes to the way cars are bought and sold also. Okay, so manufacturers who are putting in this intelligence into the car to the next level, where there is a driverless car, where a lot more information is gathered, and also what Suma was telling was the sharing of data in a fleet or whatever is that. Now, that kind of data, we consumers are not even aware. Say, leave our team here, who are privacy specialists. A common person who is a car buyer, he doesn't know anything about privacy. Okay, and these critical issues of what kind of personal data gets recorded without his knowledge. Even this Ola accident person, he came to know only after the data was revealed in the Twitter that his speed, everything, minute to minute, actually it was being monitored. Now, where is the informed consent of the buyer for this? Now, every car of this nature, which is sold, let us say DPA 2021 comes into being from today. Okay. Now, 1 week later, if you ask for each of these car manufacturers, last 1 week, whatever you have sold, have you taken the informed consent from these people? All of them will say they do not know. So there is the possibility of some issues arising right there. In GDPR also, this has not come up. I have not seen many of these cases. See, people have filed case against Facebook on day one of GDPR. Why nobody has filed cases against multiple car owners about informed consent? Informed consent and data access. Now, if I am a car owner, I want to have access to this data. What is the procedure for that? Is there a procedure? Anybody has come across that in GDPR scenario? Volkswagen and other things are all in the heart of GDPR implementation place. Is it not? Say like Schrems, somebody has to file a case against all the automobile manufacturers for data access first, and then about informed consent. What is the system for informed consent? If that system is not in existence, the supervisory authority can actually put fines straight away, like they have done for Google and others, no, for not having a proper procedure. Now here there will be no procedure. Okay, so Indian manufacturers also should be careful that they will not make this mistake.
Yeah. Great.
Also, Navi sir, there was one more point when I was searching for data for this presentation where we had autonomous driving, and in the autonomous driving, we have sensors and things which are getting captured surrounding the vehicle.
Correct.
And the other like the other things which are getting captured are stored also. The video things which are getting captured. But how would you get this consent for the other things which are getting captured here?
Let's say, see, if I am taking my car on the road and if data surrounding me is collected, it is my data only. Okay, so I have to exercise my ownership rights. I have to be rewarded if that is sold for profit. These are issues which will come. I'm sure lawyers will be intelligent enough to question whether it is Maruti or anybody else, Volkswagen or even Mercedes. I think Mercedes also has got some manufacturing in India, I suppose. Whoever has got manufacturing in India, okay, they will all be questioned by privacy activists. Okay, and one thing is job situation. Kalyani Motors, Mandavi Motors, they will have to have 5 or 10 privacy consultants to have a chat with a very prospective buyer and inform him about privacy, get his signature on the consent form, even before the your banker takes the form for finance and other things like that. You have to have one person who takes a privacy consent. Am I correct, Ramesh?
There should be some system established, right, sir?
So somebody should contact all the dealers in Bangalore, and FDBPI should run a training for them.
Navi sir, I really like your related side. You covered auditor, you covered consultant, you covered lawyers for the contract. Everybody is getting job now, I'll tell
you. Definitely.
Great.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
So how many of these current generation cars, whatever is the model, and which is being sold, let us say in Bangalore, if somebody can just make a guess of it, because all models may not fall into this, but all the latest models must be doing something, because only people in the automotive industry will know. Okay, but most of these high-end models have got this black box within the car. And we know that in Bangalore, in the recent accident, this black box was also collected. We don't know what the police did. Police did not share it with the public, but it was essential to know whether the car was overspeeding and so on. So most of these high-end cars already have this facility, and even the mid-range cars, which people like us drive, if I buy something today, I'm sure it will have some intelligence built into it. Maybe the car which I bought 5 years back may not have had that intelligence. But I understand even my 5-year-old car has this intelligence as far as the machine performance is concerned. That's what I am aware of. So this automobile dealers need to be made aware of the privacy risks. It is like your pharmacies who are exposed to the data protection risks, which hospitals can manage, but an individual pharmacy will find it difficult. Likewise, what we are discussing today, maybe the manufacturers and IT companies will be able to manage, but these smaller companies, automobile dealers, may not be aware of it, and they are like the SMEs who need help from people like us, I suppose.
Navi, I have a question.
Yeah.
Why that responsibility comes to automobile dealers? It is the responsibility of the manufacturer.
Consent has to be taken by him, no?
Okay.
Say consent is at the point of sale. So
see, nowadays, what is happening? If you go to any branded showroom,
yeah,
all the data is not managed locally with the dealer. Everything is centralized. So they would have taken care at the central level.
no, they would have had a form if necessary, but it is not informed because the buyer would not have been told these are the kind of risks. They will, just like the bankers taking a loan document, you just sign somewhere at the end of the page there, but that is not going to.
But before that, you are saying that I have read and understood and signing. Whether you are reading
that
or
not sufficient, no. Say, lawyers will always come back and say that you are doing this for every person. I can produce 10 witnesses. All of them will say that I did not read, I signed. And it is sufficient for the court to say that you don't have a procedure for making it known. Particularly, language issue also will come. Now, what if a driver doesn't know English? He will buy a car. So these people will be caught if they are just making it a procedure.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, I think Manju can continue. But anyway, we should thank Suma for having triggered some new thoughts and also business opportunities for privacy people. Okay. Yeah. Manju, please.
Thank you, Suma, for an interesting and in-depth session on this. And the discussion which ensued was even more interesting. And I thank everyone for that, for all the ideas, Navi sir, and all the ideas and thoughts shared by everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
And insurance persons like Deepak Verde will also be looking into it.
They will be more interested because many
Absolutely, sir.
cases are being recorded now because of the TDR and all. They can claim driver was at fault and they can avoid giving the insurance there.
Yeah.
Good night, sir. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.